All right, so let's open it up for some questions and comments. Everybody's fallen asleep. I'm sorry. Anybody want to? You got me here. Do you have anything that you want to ask?
I'm sorry. I do have one question.
Oh, don't be sorry. Please, yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Mary's daughter.
Hi.
My daughter's taking the class with me.
Nice to meet both of you.
I have a question. I mean, if you're using billowing incense inside, how would it be bad for your lungs if incense is supposed to be like good for you and cleansing?
Well, it's good for your aura to have a little of the incense, but breathing smoke is bad for your lungs, no matter what kind of smoke it is, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's frankincense, whether it's marijuana, whether it's campfire. It's not good to breathe tons of smoke. So a little bit of smoke in the room is going to be fine for you, but you'll start your eyes will start watering, you'll start it's just distracting. Less is more inside. It's just, they've discovered that too much incense burning indoors can lead to all kinds of things like emphysema, and some incense ingredients can lead to cancer. So a little bit of incense is good for you, but you don't want tons of smoke in an enclosed space. It's just not good for you. Now, there is a wonderful, and I give you this in the in your incense recipes, if you can buy white ash from incense suppliers, it's pure white ash. It's very, very, very fine. And once your incense charcoal is hot, red hot, you can put a layer of white ash on that. And when you place the smallest tiny little bit of incense onto that, I mean, it just says one little grain or one little pinch onto that, it won't burn as hot, so you get the benefit of the fragrance without as much of the smoke. And another alternative to that is to make just put a little piece of tinfoil on top of the red hot charcoal. Make sure that the charcoal's red before you put anything on top of it, including incense, or it can go out. You can put a little bit of like a piece of tinfoil on top of that, or make a little cup out of tinfoil, or they even sell incense foils in some of these suppliers. And then you put a little bit of the incense on that, and it lasts. The fragrance is so much prettier because it doesn't burn as hot. And there's another thing which I personally use, which it's a little expensive, so you may not want to do this, but you can get electric incense burners, and they're a little plate where you where the plate gets hot, and then there's like a little cup in there, and you sprinkle the incense in there, and it gets hot enough to burn the incense, but not as hot as the charcoal, so you don't have as much smoke, and smells so much better. But that can be kind of pricey, and you don't have to do that. But just even if you're using the plain charcoal, just use a tiny little bit of incense, and you can always add more if you feel like you need more. But I find it very distracting when there's too much incense. It bugs me. I'll go to these group rituals, and there will be so much incense in this small enclosed room, and I've gotten to the point. Excuse me. I've gotten to the point where if I'm going to a group ritual, before it starts, I will ask, can we please not have too much incense? Because I love incense. I'm like Mr. Incense. You should see my cupboard. I've got tons of it, but I just don't like it in abundance. Hope that explains myself. But it's your altar, it's your lungs, it's your room. You do what you want. Okay?
Yeah, and I have one more question.
Sure.
I was wondering, like, if you do take the billowing incense outside, would you want to do it in more of a private space? Because
yes,
if other people don't really like it, so it would be more benefiting to put it in a private space if you are going outside. Yeah,
if you're going outside, go into your backyard, enclosed backyard, or if there's some place outdoors where you can have some privacy, that's what I would recommend. I don't recommend going out doing a bunch of rituals outdoors in a public place. If you're trying to get some secrecy, especially, it's just hard to concentrate, especially, if you're using robes and things like that. You don't want to go out in the middle of the, Central Park in a black robe and an altar, with, it's just going to call attention to yourself. So yeah, if you're going outside, try to do it in your backyard or someplace that's private. Good questions. Oh, my pleasure. Who else would like to ask something or say something?
Hi, Ariel. Can you hear me?
Yes. There's a little echo, but yes. You might want to turn down your speaker a little bit.
I'll try.
Oh, that's good. It sounds good. Who is this?
Okay. I'm Juno.
Hi,
everybody. Can we go back to the sphere of influence for a second?
Yes.
It's not a question. It's more like a curiosity. My sphere of influence seems to work for jobs exclusively. Is that common?
Well, everybody seems to have their own natural inclinations when they're doing magic, and our goal is that you start to expand your sphere of influence so that you can start obtaining more of your goals in different categories.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah. So what you should probably do, I'm still using that word should. I don't usually do that. It's come out twice now. What you may consider doing is with your goals that are not job oriented, start working with things that you really want that are closer to what the higher the scale of the sphere of influence. So it's not too much of a stretch at first, and then you'll notice that your sphere will start to expand rather rapidly to include some of those things that seemed very out of reach before. But start with things that are just a little bit of a reach, not too much of a stretch when you're first starting, especially.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Good question.
Ariel, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, this is Will of the Wisp.
Hi.
Hi. This seems like a pretty basic question, but it seems to continue to plague me. I live in a single-story house, and I live alone, but yet occasionally family members will stop in to help me out with things, and they'll come in my house, and I don't know when they're showing up, or in case of emergencies, and I always have problems with setting up a permanent altar because I just don't know where to put it, where I can feel safe that someone's not going to walk in and see it.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, I do want to have it out because it reminds me to practice. Right.
This is something that you may want to do some work on, as far as finding the best balance for you. Maybe do a spell for this as part of one of your goals, because what I've noticed for me is that I also am very private, with my craft stuff, and so I've got a room that I lock. I have a locked room where nobody goes in but me, and my assistant is allowed in there too, and that's it. And so nobody gets to go in there. That's where all my books are. That's where my altar is. That's where all my craft stuff is. And that's what it took me a long time to be able to manifest that, but I knew I wanted something like that, and I have that now. But before that, what I would do is I would take a TV tray or a tray, and I would leave it sort of set up, except for the candles I would have to sort of either put on their sides or put away, and I would just stick it under the bed. And then I'd pull it out when I was doing work, and then I would stick it back under the bed. And that way it wasn't like I had to set up the altar each time, The other thing too is if you have people, dropping by uninvited, it's probably maybe something to consider is being able to start having some boundaries, because there's nothing wrong with having privacy. There's nothing wrong with allowing yourself to say, I love having you come over, but you need to call first, because I'm doing a lot. You can say whatever you want to say, but if it were me, I would say I'm doing a lot more meditation and things like that. And it really, or yoga or whatever. And I really would like it if you would call first so that I'm not interrupted. And that can be really scary for some people to start to set down some boundaries like that. And some people might get a little annoyed at it, but it may be something to it may be something to consider anyway, because they can get annoyed all they want, but it's still your life.
It's true, and one of the reasons, in all fairness, is because I do live alone and I have some medical issues, so they're concerned. So usually it's for my own benefit, but it's if you have medical issues, you can say, when you call and you don't hear back from me in an hour, then I give you permission to come over. Okay.
You know what I mean? Or something like that. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just giving you some ideas of what you could do, because there may be a way that you could start to move your life away from that.
Okay.
If you want it, if that's what you want.
Yes.
Because that can, because we don't want to alienate the people who love us. That's not the goal here. But at the same time, just because we love you doesn't mean you get to drop by, unannounced. You don't get to just come in without knocking. There's some, sometimes we have to lay down some new rules, and it may take a while, but it's something to consider. I'm not telling you to do anything dramatic right away, but you may want to consider starting to think about how you want your life to look. And that's what we're doing next week anyway. And include that in your vision of what you want your life to look like. What kind of living arrangement do you have? What kind of, and also include your health in there too.
Yes. Okay.
All of that.
Great. How do I mute myself again?
Oh, are you on the phone?
Yes.
Oh, I have to do it. I will do it for you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Sure. Are you in the 347 area code?
No.
Okay.
732.
Okay. All right, but and then just unmute yourself if you have any other questions. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. I'm just going to mute all. That was very loud. Okay. There we go. Whew, that was a lot of cacophony. Who else would like to ask a question or have something to say?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Ariel. Thank you so much for doing this. It's Simone here. I'm calling from the UK.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you in person.
Hi. Thank you. It was a really interesting point that the previous lady made about where to practice, where it's private, because I always think that my bedroom is the place that people are less likely to go to, so I can put an altar there. But at the same time, I'm a practitioner of Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbalism, that sort of thing. I'm very mindful about energies, and I'm wondering what you think about whether it's appropriate or not to have the energy of the magical work that we do in somewhere that we're then going to be sleeping and, whatever. What do you think about that? Personally,
I think it's fine. I've had altars in my bedroom in the past, and I found it was just fine. But you may want to experiment with that. Give it a good try. So try leaving an altar up, for like 3 or 4 weeks and see if it's too stimulating or not for you. You may find that it actually helps you sleep better.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but everybody is so different, and you're going to want to probably experiment with that. I've known people that had like a stand, like not really a TV tray, but like a small stand, and they would have their altar and they would pull it out and do their work, and then they would just lift the whole thing up, and they had a place in a closet that was all set up for it, and it was small, and they would stick it in the closet and close the closet. because they knew it was a closet that nobody would ever go into, and that worked. And you know what? The worst thing I've ever had happen is somebody sees my altar, and they just have to get over it.
Exactly.
You know, what is it going to do? It's not going to, they're not paying my bills, so I don't care.
No. And I decided that if they want to be with me, then they need to just accept me as I am. This is what I do. This is what I believe. This is what I enjoy.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So I think that there's privacy, and secrecy is very helpful, but you don't want to get neurotic about it either. I mean, if you're living in a situation where, you know, you're going to be burned at the stake if they see your altar, maybe that's something you need to start looking at, changing your living situation.
Hopefully not. No.
Yes, right.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you very much.
It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. Who else? Nobody?
Hi, Ariel. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
This is Angela Raven Silver.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
I know, finally. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this. It's amazing.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah. I was worried that maybe it would be too... can you mute yourself while I'm going to mute you because I'm hearing a lot of echo. Yeah. I was afraid, and then you can unmute when you want to talk. I was afraid that this first class might be a little bit too basic again, but I feel like we have to get on the same page a little bit. So I promise it's going to get a little juicier, but
I'm ready for the juicy, but the review was really good because it's been a while since I've been through the Witch's Primer.
Oh, good. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. All right, so who else would like to ask or speak?
Hello.
Hello, this is Crystal.
Oh, I got two.
That's okay.
Okay, one at a time?
How would we know?
You, whoever you are that just said that. We'll start with you.
This is Crystal. That's a lot of information, and how will you be posting our assignments? Oh,
I will. Do you get the emails, like the reminders?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to send out an email probably right after it's uploaded to give you the URL so that you can download not only you'll get a recording of this call so that you can review it if you would like. And it'll be like a zip file with all of the files in it. So it may be kind of a big file. I think what I'll do is I'll have two options: one that you can view and listen online, and one that you can download, because it will be a lot of files. But you will get an email tonight. Okay. And next, the next person, was it?
Hi,
who's this?
This is Cerulean Blue. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm so glad you're doing the class. It's a wonderful opportunity. My question is, everybody is always talking about their favorite deity, their patron deity, or this god or that god, or the flavor of the week. And can you explain the difference between asking for the assistance of and invoking? Because I know they're really, really different, and it's just not clear to me. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, it does. Well, we don't do
everybody's on different paths.
Yeah, that's why we're not doing a ton of that stuff. We're doing more of the actual, just the practical magic, but we will touch on it more. This is my perspective, and other practitioners and people talk about it differently. And I mean, I respect everybody's point of view, but this is where I come from. This is how I was trained, and this works for me. Like I said, that there's two minds. There's actually three. There's the surface mind. There's the deep mind, and then there's the universal or superconscious mind. So the superconscious mind is the part of it. You access the superconscious mind through the deep mind. So if you want to call that your subconscious and your superconscious, that's fine. To me, it's the surface, the deep, and the universal. I go deep enough into my deep mind, and I can access the universal mind. And that universal mind is the place wherein the archetypes live. And those archetypes, whether you believe in them as actual entities or as energies or forces, is up to you. But it seems like on some level, the deities will have specific cultural personalities. And on another level, if you go high enough, they are actually archetypes which are shared by many cultures. And if you go high enough with they are just simply forces. And high enough above that, there is only one. There is only not just one God external. There's only one life force. There's only one power. And we're all part of it, all of us. But it's from the tradition of the craft that I'm from, and also a lot of other traditions of the craft, the Godhead, if you will, or the one power, the supreme power, is not easily accessible in consciousness by individuals because we have egos. So therefore, it's easier for us to access individual deities. And some of the deities, in some pantheons, are not actual deities in the same way that they are in other pantheons. Like, for instance, the Greek deities correspond with a lot of not always the deities of maybe the Celtic pantheon, because those are more ancestors. They're really more like the Fae. They're more like the fairy world. And then but they're also related to the angels of what I don't want to get too far into theology, but the Hebraic tradition kind of co-opted the angels, but the angels predated the Hebrews, and that's why a lot of witches have always worked with angels. And in fact, I'm going to be doing I don't know when that's going to be happening, but I'm going to be doing an angel magic series, and like Sybil Leek, her way of working was she had a goddess, and the seven archangels. So there's many different ways to approach the deities, but it depends upon how you work, because every tradition is different. So, for instance, Paul Husson, in his Mastering Witchcraft, his deities were Habondia and Cernunnos, so he was purely Celtic. But those are two deities that were considered pan-Celtic, meaning that they predated a lot of the Tuatha De Danann and the Welsh pantheons. They predated a lot of the other pantheons. So they were really just forces of the Godhead by the law of duality or gender, whereas one was the feminine side of God and the other one was the masculine side of God, and that's how a lot of the witches worship. They work with those two, the god and the goddess, and then from there, the only other beings that they work with are spirits or angels. They don't work with other big pantheons. They just work with a god, a goddess, and spirits, or depending on what you want to call them, spirits, angels, shades. So now, if you're doing more Kabbalistic ceremonial magic, then your pantheons are going to be sitting on the tree of life, and so each of them will have different planetary powers, and so you're going to be invoking your deities based upon either what sphere or path it is that you're working on, and the invocation, depending on how you look at it, the old-fashioned way of saying invocation would be to call within yourself. So if let's say I'm invoking Diana, so I'm calling within myself Diana. But really what's happening is I'm accessing where Diana lives in the universal mind and in my deep mind so that I can have communication with Diana. Same thing with Isis, same thing with Cernunnos, same thing with Pan. And remember, on one level, they're very cultural. And so you have to be able to approach them culturally according to their customs. But if you get deep enough, the energy or the force behind the deity transcends the culture. So it takes a lot. It's a very, very deep subject. It's a very deep topic that has very many facets, and there's very many different ways of working with the deities. Now, what we're going to be doing in this 6 weeks, and you can work with deities if you want to, and I give you the option of doing that, but we're working with the pure planetary spirits. We're working with the pure planetary energies, what I call the geniuses of the planets. And those genius energies can manifest as deities, and they can manifest as archangels, however you want to work with them. But I'm stripping all of that away from this 6 weeks, all the cultural, the anthropological, and the religious aspect, and we're working specifically with the actual genius intelligence of each planetary sphere. And that's how we're going to be working. And what's cool about that is that you can take that and you can apply it toward any type of, spiritual, religious, pantheistic operation that you want to. You can get a lot of benefit out of it. So you'll see when we get to that you'll be able to work with the deity or with just the pure planetary energy, depending on how you want to do it. So I don't know if that even answered your question. That's a really deep question.
Hi, Ariel. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Strega.
Hi.
And I wanted to talk to you about something that occurred about a week ago. I have two groups of students that I work with. One is more advanced than the other. And about a week ago, my more advanced group was meeting, and we were talking about some pretty heavy-duty stuff. And sometimes we work within a circle, and sometimes we don't. But we had kind of a strange event where it was about 9:30 at night, and we had 3 people come to the door who were, like religious callers that had name tags and things like that.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't leave. And they really would not leave. I mean, they knocked multiple times, and finally I went to the door. I didn't open it, and I said, you need to go. But we're kind of at a point where we're sort of coming out of the closet. We're doing moon rituals. We're doing a lot of things. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on protection for us as we very gradually kind of come out of the closet and we start inviting friends who aren't necessarily part of the circle to come and ritual with us. You're being thoughts on that?
You're being led to be more out of the closet. Is that the deal? You feel that's an important thing for you?
I think it is. I want to make that opportunity available. We're a small group. There's about 10 of us. And we want to start to do more things. We do work magic together. We do ritual together. We want to broaden that a little bit. Yes. We have trusted friends and family that we can invite them to work with us in perfect love and perfect trust.
That's nice. Yeah.
But at the same time, we want to safeguard ourselves from others who might not understand.
Well, yeah, you're in a very tenuous area when you start inviting guests. I'm going to mute you, and then you can unmute if you have more to say and ask. But I'm getting an echo. So when you're dealing with guests especially with a new young group, it can be a wonderful thing because, like you said, you have your family and your friends and people that you love that want to be involved, especially if, like, maybe there's Sabbats or something. And we do that. I mean, we have guests at our Sabbats all the time. But at the same time, if you open yourself up to any hostile influences, that can start to that can very quickly put the damper on some of the wonderful magic that you are awakening. So you've got to tread very lightly and make sure that you vet the people that you invite into your space, because just being completely 100% out of the closet, some people work very well that way. I don't. I never have worked well that way. It's just I don't. It's just too much. There's too many cross currents of people that don't understand, people that are afraid, people that make assumptions about what we're doing. I just have never been comfortable being completely out of the closet, so to speak. And I don't even like that word, because I'm not closeted. I'm just private. I'm just private. It's I don't have sex in the middle of the street either, but that doesn't mean I'm ashamed of my sexuality. So I feel like, you know, you got to find a balance between allowing yourself to invite new people into your circle, even if it's an extended circle, which is a very good thing to do. I totally encourage that, and just opening it up for everybody. So one thing you may want to consider doing, again, is do the process that we're doing this week with your group, as far as what are our goals, so that everybody makes sure, because you might assume that you're all on the same page, but if everybody takes the paper home and then comes back at the next meeting and starts to share what their goals and their vision for the group is, you might see that you've got different perspectives as far as what people want, what people think is safe. You know, and something that's really interesting is if you do it anonymously, if everybody just, types their list up of the goals that they have for the circle and prints it out and sticks it in there, and then you have one representative that reads everybody's list. That way people aren't afraid, to say what they really feel. And that way you can start to get a sense of what your group dynamic and your group mind is. Once you have an idea of where the group is cohesive and where you're at odds, you can start to do magic on the things that are common goals for you and leave the other things alone for the time being. And a lot of times what I've noticed is when you start doing magic on your common goals, a lot of those other things that were seemingly at odds start to resolve themselves. And then you'll notice that the people start coming into your circle who are really good for your circle, and the other people don't find their way in there because you've done the right kind of magical work for that, based upon what your own group mind goals are for your circle. Does that make sense? I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, it does. And, we're still very much, I'd say we're probably more wanting to keep private at this point. But at the same point, I don't want us, it felt threatening. It just felt threatening to have these people on the other side of the door who... Yeah.
Well, I would definitely do a spell of protection for the whole group. I would definitely make sure to list everything that you want in that protection. What that you're protected, so that everybody feels safe and is safe. And I would definitely do it as a group effort. What do you guys want? And do a spell, and make the magic work for you, rather than having to try to figure out all the nuts and bolts, because it'll tend to just work itself out if you keep your vision very focused.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that's some good guidance.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the same group for about 30 years now, or maybe not quite that long, maybe 25 years. And anytime we get into kind of any sticky situations, we just do a spell on it. I think that's why we stay together for so long, is because we don't try to figure it out so much like we used to. We just say, well, what do we want? Let's do the work, and then we just let it go, and let it manifest. And it seems to work for us. Maybe it'll work for you.
Okay, well, awesome. That's kind of where I was thinking that some sort of a safeguard in my doorway to keep these people away.
Yeah. But when you do this protection, I would make it a little bit more encompassing than just protecting you from harm. I would do one where you are safe. Where you're safe, and it's where you are constantly the energy is so positive and powerful that nothing but good can penetrate it. You know what I mean? So that you're not feeling like you're putting a barrier and that they're out there trying to get in, and I would rethink your image so that you really feel like the power is so strong and positive that's emanating, that it's burning up anything that's not good for you. That it doesn't even exist. Sometimes what I'll do too is if I'm feeling unsafe in my life, rather than trying to put a protection, I'll do a spell of transformation so that any of that negative energy that was there is actually transformed into something good for me. And that seems to work a lot more powerfully, because if I start putting up a lot of barriers and protections and barriers and protections, I start to get a little bit less happy. I mean, I don't want to say it's like almost like there's this subliminal paranoia that's always there. That's like, oh, are my guards up? Am I protected? Instead, I like to think of it more like a big bonfire that's so powerful, that's so bright, that's so light that it's just going to burn it up if it's bad for me, and I don't even have to think about it. All right, what else? We've got about maybe 10 minutes, and then I'm going to stop the recording and open it up for people that were not wanting to be recorded. So we've got about 10 more minutes if anybody has anything to say or ask.
Ariel, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
My question is for how to deal with friends or, circles that have members that are in like an enlightening race, or like this like enlightening race or competition with other people, or
like I'm more spiritual than you.
Yes, because I'm a very private person. You have like the secrecy part of it, and then also in your podcast you have one whole podcast on anger. And when someone assumes something about me that they don't know, and they say, oh, I feel that this and this and this is happening, and they're totally way off.
Yeah.
But then they try to also, in the same sentence, make you feel like they have the upper hand and and belittle you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that in a way where you can keep your privacy? You don't need to let them know that they're making you angry, and still rise to the top.
I'm seeing. Let's see if I understand your question.
Okay.
When somebody, like somebody that is making an assumption about you, and are they saying like I can intuit this, or my spirit guide told me that, or something like that?
Yeah.
Is that what
Or I think maybe what you're struggling with, like about me, like telling me like, oh, I feel that you're struggling with X, Y, and Z.
Well, what I usually say is, I have a therapist that I pay money for to talk to me about these things. And since I'm not paying you, I don't feel like it's a very fair trade. So let's not talk about that.
Okay.
I know, but I'm a little bit, I can be a little rude. I understand. I can. I mean, I try not to be, but when somebody does something like that, it's like, I need to shut it down whatever way I can. I need to just shut that down because I don't need it. You don't need it. Nobody, it's not their business. I've gotten to the point where I'm a lot nicer than I used to be about stuff like that. But I usually just say, thank you for sharing. But next time, if I want your advice, I'll ask you for it first.
Okay.
But you may not feel comfortable being that confrontive and confrontational.
No, I don't. And I feel like I am too nice, but I feel that is the best approach for me because nobody really knows that much.
Well, it's not their place to make assumptions about you. You know, who are they? I mean,
Exactly.
You should. Another thing would be like, well, you should hear what my spirit guide says about you, but I don't want to talk about that because it's none of my business.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that stuff is just so murky and ucky. Are these people that you care about?
I mean, some of them are really close friends.
Uh-huh.
Other, that we're just a really close group of friends that are all going through the same, I guess, doing soul searching.
Yes.
And
which is good.
Then the other group is a sound healing circle.
Uh-huh.
And we just need to sit in a room and you can see who tries to antagonize with others in the room. Sometimes
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to lose my train of thought because it may be helpful for you. Sometimes I also say I am a kind of person that needs some ground rules with relationships. And one of the ground rules that we need to set up is that blah, blah, blah. And just tell them, whatever it is that when I don't want to hear about your assumptions about me or whatever. Sometimes it's just good to just lay it on the table as nicely as possible and just tell them, because you're not doing it in anger. You're not being mad. You're just, it's like, if we're going to have a relationship, we've got to set some boundaries here, and this is what I need from you. And if they still continue to do things to you that antagonize you, you're going to have to make a choice as to whether that's a relationship that you want to discontinue or whether you can live with it, because some people just aren't going to change.
Right.
And that's just the way life is. I mean, I've gotten to the point in my life. I mean, I'm 50. I'll be 51 in a couple months, and it's just like I don't have time for this. I don't have the desire to put up with people's nonsense anymore. I don't mind being patient and loving with people. But when they're just, it's kind of abusive. It's kind of being a jerk and antagonizing you just to get a rise out of you. And who has time for that?
Right. Well, I feel like they keep a continuous stream of drama.
Well, and they want you to participate in it, and you don't have to. And you can even just say that, or for you it may be your method of dealing with it may be that you are going to when you do your meditations every day, if you can key in something for yourself that you do like a real clearing of your energy body, where you can wash that stuff out quickly, like if you give yourself some kind of key, like I don't know, you do a really thorough aura cleansing kind of thing, and you say, when I say the word clear now, I'm going to feel the same amount of cleansing. And anytime that person says something to you, you just say clear now, or whatever it is, and you get that rush of light, and then you pretend like they're not even there. You don't even give them any kind of response at all. You just leave that. Sometimes that's the best way to deal with bullies, is to not even respond.
Not even engage.
Not engage. It's sort of like cutting the roots off of a tree. That it gets no nourishment and it dies.
Right.
And that may be the best way for you to deal with that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, I'm gonna. You can ask as many questions as you want, but I'm actually gonna stop the recording. But before I do, I'm gonna do our ending meditation. So if you could just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And picturing ourselves again on top of that beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. And in the center of the circle, a bonfire is still blazing forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. And this light is the light of perfect love and perfect trust. And the substance from this light is now permeating every particle of our mind, body, emotions, and aura, burning away everything that is unlike itself. We're very grateful for the time that we have spent together today, and we are very happy to be moving into our next phase of magical effectiveness. We are grateful to all the teachers, angels, deities, and spirits of the way. Thank you very much. Together we all say, blessed be.